talk about that. I know that some have, I don't know if you signed up. How many people are here that you would like to speak? Okay, sorry, I know. Is there anybody else that would, we'll be a little more informal about it. It is something that we, when it affects kids, we want to make sure that we talk about it. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Pitts first to put the data up on the board where it was broken out between THC versus just tobacco.
Yeah, so in our in the May special call board meeting, we kind of ended with this slide talking about vapes and stuff. I did go back and update these numbers. If you remember, it was about middle of May, and I wanted to make sure I was giving the best information I could, so I just used the end of April. Now that school is over, we can show the whole year because we feel like those numbers are accurate. And so just wanted to show you kind of where we ended the year and that sort of thing. One thing to keep in mind is these vapes are, again, tobacco-related vapes, okay? They pull in our system as tobacco, e-cigarettes, vaping, nicotine, that sort of thing. So not all of these are going to be tobacco vapes. There may be some Skull mixed in there, some cigarettes, that sort of thing. But the vast majority of them, I would say, are probably nicotine vapes in the data right there that you see.
And Jen, what caused the big improvement there? It looks like we're changing the discipline.
Yeah, so we moved from 10 days out of school suspension. What our building level administrators were seeing were a lot of repeat offenders. And so we wanted to be able to incorporate a required support program for those first-time offenders. Well, because 10 days out of school suspension is the max we could do, we had no way to require that support program. So and then that evolved into conversations about transportation, getting kids up here to be able to do it, and that sort of thing. So that's why we moved to 5 days of in-school suspension, because when they're with us, we can require that support program. And so all of our kids, the very first offense, they're required to do that support program.
So you think the support program?
I think it has, well, I know that it has drastically reduced our number of repeat offenders. So, yes, thank you. So I pulled the exact same data as far as drugs are concerned. Again, there are some of these that are not THC vapes, right? There may be some other drugs. But what I'll tell you is that we had, of that 33 number you see, 28 of those were vapes with THC. So again, those aren't all vapes, but I would still say by and large that's probably the majority of what we see. Well, not probably, it is the majority of what we see.
Any repeat offenders in there?
I don't believe there's any. There may be a repeat offender. There may be somebody that was in second chance or TLC, brought it again, and then they were expelled. I will tell you, we pulled out. There were about 10 drug offenses from this year that were coded drug offenses that we pulled out because they were positive tests. So student didn't have the drug on them. They weren't using it at school. None of that, but if they're in our TLC or second chance program, they're required to take a drug screen, or a drug screen, and 10 of those were positive, and so we pulled that out to show actual drug offenses rather than just positive screens. But as you can see, the policy for first drug offense has not changed. It is still 10 days out of school suspension with recommendation of expulsion. That's the max that we're allowed to do. Administration cannot expel a student. We can recommend expulsion to the school board, and then the school board has the final say on this, that the student's expelled or not. So we're not able to do any more discipline for that.
And this is district-wide?
Yes, this is district-wide.
I think there's just one more slide from this. Okay. That's okay.
So if, as we discussed last time, we do have 2 in lieu of expulsion programs. And that is so that we're able to keep students enrolled with us rather than them be expelled and trying to do their learning at home. We know that has a very, very low success rate. So just from a very high level, there are these two different programs can be a little challenging to understand, but just at a very high level, both programs require drug education course, random drug testing, student progress monitoring, counseling, those sorts of things. Both programs offer that. Really, the main difference between the two is that the Second Chance program, those students are still housed on their home campus, all right, and it is for students that are just in possession. They're not sharing it with anybody. They're not selling it. They're not distributing it. They just have it. That is for Second Chance. The Learning Center, it is housed at our Alternative Learning Academy, and so there are a few more restrictions, and it is primarily for students that are sharing or distributing or selling, that sort of thing, or it's for those students that violate the Second Chance program. So if you're in Second Chance and you have a violation, then you would then be referred to the Learning Center. Of course, both of these programs are in lieu of expulsion. So what that means is we occasionally have students or a family that does not want to participate in these, and then it just reverts back to the recommendation for expulsion, and we bring it to the board to decide. So Dr. Pinkerton, if you'll go to the next slide, I just put those numbers together just so it's easy for you to see, vapes and drug offenses all together on one slide, just so that you can get a clear picture there.
And so, if they fail a drug screening, and there's no second chance in this TLC program. If they come back with a positive drug screen, any other violations, then it automatically goes to expulsion, comes before the board. So there's a second chance program for those who are in possession. If they fail a drug screening, then they have the opportunity to go to TLC, but anytime you get in TLC, the next step, if you have a failed drug screening or another offense, it's automatic expulsion for the remainder of the year. So with that, we've seen the data, open it up to comment.
So while we look at last month's numbers on the vaping, all that, but when we look at these numbers, we've actually increased over the THC.
No, we haven't.
Well, we went from 32 to 33 according to that number I'm looking at. We're down to
35 to
22,
33.
then 32, then 33 on the THC for drug offenses. Is that not right?
And that's, yeah, but one.
22, 23, we went down, then we went back up and we went up again.
Why did it go down so much in 22?
I don't know.
Not sure.
What's that?
I don't like kids at school back here.
In 22, 23?
There's a lot out.
And you know, here's one thing that we don't know. We know that this many kids were caught. I mean, we know that kids are good at hiding things, and so we know there's probably more. But this is the numbers that we have. This, and we're trying to deal with each one of these and get this back to the families, and we're trying to make sure that our other kids are safe too. I mean, I know this is, for us, I mean, we're responsible for educating every kid. But if you don't stay with the rules, then you're gonna get expelled for the rest of the year, so.
So what and I may be wrong, but is that not 22, 32, or 33 on the screen? They're not, am I reading those numbers right?
Yeah.
So they did go up.
By one.
Huh?
By one.
But they
went down over.
They were down to 22, they come back up. But what I'm saying is, while the program works for those kids in great numbers, the program doesn't seem to be working the same numbers with these kids. We had a drastic drop on that screen last month. You know what I'm saying? The numbers went down. They went down 50-something, they went down 20-something the next year. On that, you pull that screen back up, go to, something like that. What I'm saying is, but we're not getting the results here on the actual drugs.
I mean, other than the 2022, 2023 year, it looks like they're being pretty consistent. It's 35, 32, 33. We had one abnormal year.
My point is though, maybe I'm not clear here, the program or the change, about the change in the policy okay, and all the programs are working on the tobacco, but it's not really done anything for the actual drugs.
Well, I don't think we changed any of the policy on
Yeah, we changed the policy, but we discussed that last month at the meeting.
I mean, I'll give you my opinion. I think expelling these kids, when you expel these kids, they never graduate. And they stay in our community. So what we end up with is uneducated people that do not do anything for society. And so expelling a kid in today's world is a travesty. If you can at all get around it. And hey, I don't like the stuff, I don't condone the stuff, but you can go to the gas stations or the mall and get it. It is accepted in our world now. I was in Florida last week and I saw a billboard that said it's simple. If you're high, don't drive. It's like the don't do drugs, that's gone. That's not the world we live in. It is don't drive if you're doing them. And you kick these kids out of school, they're gonna go home and do drugs. They're gonna do this at home. This is not a Sheridan problem. This is a problem in every school in the country, and I wish we could stop it, but I do not believe sending these kids home is the right answer.
Well, one, I don't care about the world anymore. I barely how we get out of Grant County. That makes me very narrow-minded. I mean, I get as far as Fordyce and maybe East End, that's my world nowadays. But my point on the hard drugs, which is what THC is.
There's harder drugs.
Okay, but we're starting to, yeah, well, these numbers show THC and up. My point is, when you get with these loaded vapes, you don't know what you're getting. And those kids, those numbers aren't dropping. Jeff, did y'all break it down for campus?
I did not break it down for campus. I can tell you that the, there's a very low number, and I don't want to share those numbers out loud and potentially identify students. And so I took it as a whole district to,
Well, did we have a problem last year at the elementary school also?
at the intermediate school.
Well, yeah, whatever, I'm still about 40 years behind on what campus we got. I'm still saying you know.
Yeah, so in what he was saying is, yes, there were a couple instances, but if we call those specific, then because there's only a couple, it's gonna identify that kid.
Well, I'm
We're gonna do some
saying, so you're saying there was 2 last year?
I don't know if there was two.
Number at the intermediate school,
Intermediate school, whatever.
at 6 or 7. The year before that was 3 or 4,
So how many this year?
6 or
Oh,
7.
6 or 7 this year, 3 or 4 before. So,
I know Mr. Span's dad's in the hospital, he
Okay.
has to leave early, so I just wanted to let him,
okay,
just out and let everybody know that he has, you're not getting up more.
that's a priority. John Paul had legal a certain situation right there. Power went out, his wife and obviously had run home. So it's not good, but that's it.
Now, one thing that, because when we start talking about these programs, we do still take first our line. Once it's if they have that repeat offense, they are expelled for the rest of the year. Now, we still have to provide an education, whether it's through virtual or whatever we do. So, but as we said, when you send some of these kids home, which I agree, we have to take a stance because we don't want them to affect one of our other kids. And there's some other things that we've done, and we've talked about, put a couple of extra things into our discipline policies, and even added something that is called on the bus where we have the right to take that bus privilege away from them now. So,
Jeff, I've got a question. The 10 days is required for drug offenses, is that correct?
yes, that's the max that the state will allow by law.
How long has that been in place?
Long time.
So the drug offense policy has not changed in the last 3 or 4 years?
Correct. Or
The officer
10
McCool-
days and recommended for expulsion.
When Officer McCool, when you're contacted that there is possibility of drugs, is that not an arrest?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So here's one thing, and I was a little unclear, and Officer McCool asked her to speak to this, if she don't mind, or Mary, or is she Mary here? Okay. Because anytime we find a child with a vape, so we'll contact our resource officer. And Officer Nicole, if you don't mind, could you tell us what that process is when you do the
You're
child
saying
support?
on a drug?
Well, either, just because you don't, at first, I guess we don't know if it's got drugs in it or not.
That's true, and I test everyone just to make sure that it doesn't, because they're mixing so many things now and filling their own vapes at home, on the bus, et cetera. If it's a tobacco vape, that's a citation from me and, with a phone number for the juvenile office, and they have to contact the juvenile office and find out how much their fine will be for that. It's just their first offense or whatever. It goes up, it's the second offense. If they keep doing it, then it's eventually a court date. If it's a THC vape or any other kind of narcotic, it's tested and I take that, immediately in my possession and the kid gets a ticket. And most of the time, unless there's a certain situation where they have to be released to a parent right there, we'll take them, down to the juvenile office where we will, have the parents come pick them up. And then on y'all's end, I think the school, puts them out for 10 days and, they'll have a court date, and in some cases, they go to jail unless they're under the influence. They won't take them if they're under the influence.
So, this was a question I had, so if that kid that you tested the vape and it was a THC vape, you've basically charged them, or, I don't know, if charged is the right word there, but
It is.
so they have to appear before a judge then?
Yes.
How long is it taking our juvenile courts, I mean, how long before they appear before a judge?
Normally it's not very long. This past year, it's been a very long time because, we didn't have a judge on the bench for a very long time.
Is that where, if it was?
Williams.
Williams, okay.
Normally it's, a month or two, but.
And so, at the last meeting, we talked a little bit about, the drug dogs to the school. Tell us about your dog that we have here.
And I watched that meeting, and the problem with the dog is we cannot search people. I don't advertise that to the children because I don't really want them to know. It's a violation of their civil rights.
I think Mary.
Mary did say that.
Okay.
And that's what parents don't understand. We cannot search the kids.
So,
I have a question. Can I ask her a question?
sure.
If I'm a parent and you suspect my child, just saying hypothetically, if you suspect my child, can you contact me, and if I give you permission, can you then search that child? If the parent gives you permission? I'm just curious, I'm just curious.
Probably, yes,
Okay.
but more than likely we'd have the parent come do it themselves.
I understand that.
So, and last time we talked about our particular dog, and if we set up if we had you doing drug screenings with the dog, and we know we can't search their person, but if we decided to, you search lockers or whatever, how much can your dog do with that? I mean,
It
I think that
depends.
came out last time that like one dog can only do a certain amount.
That's true, one dog can only do so much, and it depends on the temperature. If it's really hot, he's not gonna last very long. He can do lockers quicker and easier, but nobody uses lockers. We can do backpacks fairly easy. Kids don't hide it in their backpacks. It's in their crotch.
No. What'd you say?
It's in the crotch area.
That's what I thought you said. I wasn't expecting you to cry. Well, and with all that being said, so we have, I know since the last meeting, Mr. Pitts has talked to local law enforcement, and we'll utilize your dog more, but also I think he's talked with, our local law enforcement to organize some bringing dogs from outside. And that will be local law enforcement doing that and doing several sweeps throughout the year. Now, of course, it will be announced. They'll work with the school district to let us know, hey, here's some dates, because we don't want to try to schedule it on the day we're having standardized tests.
So, they have a police officer on that facility, they have access to that information already.
And again, now,
The we already have police officers on campus, so they don't have to ask, they already know what's going on. They know what the officers know what's going on in the school, so they can relay that back to the authorities.
Are you asking about schedules for testing, or?
No, I'm saying as far as the local law enforcement doesn't have to really ask anybody, because they got officers on campus, they can coordinate it for them.
Yeah, no, I'm just on that asking in terms of states, that we don't want them to show up with 10 dogs on the day that we're having.
I'm saying, but they've already, the local, some of the ROs, I'm gonna talk to the chief and the sheriff about it, and they've got this figured out.
All right. And,
Now, my question is, let's go back to the intermediate, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna say, I'm just saying junior high, but our numbers are coming up, so what are we gonna do there? We got a program for this one, we got a program for that, those numbers come down, but these numbers are coming up. You know, and those kids are very successful at problems. So what's our next form of action on that campus to get those numbers down?
Yeah, so we currently use a drug education program for 6-12. And we're in the process of trying to identify one that we feel will work for that age group and start implementing it there as well. We think the same company has it, or the same group has it. It's just getting into place and doing it during the school suspension, just like we do with our secondary kids.
Okay, another question. Last month, those parents testified that their kids were afraid to go to the bathroom because of marijuana in the bathroom. What action is gonna be taken next year to take care of that problem? Because it's been a problem. We had parents come out, they usually don't speak, I know I speak all the time. We had parents that never spoke before speak up on that because they're scared. So what is the school gonna do forward on getting those bathrooms for the kids to do all of them, not select bathrooms?
Well, I mean, I think that's internal control. In other words, like for example, at the high school, during 2023, I believe, Officer McCool might know better, we also introduced a security guard. And so, to try to help us with some of those things, right? To try to help us with parking lot control, try to help us with locked doors, that sort of thing. So my original thought would be our principals being able to come up with routine checks and that sort of thing between classes, or, utilizing our people more to check bathrooms.
Well, 2-3 years ago, when we put the first policy in, it was a schedule set up, they were checked, and the bathrooms were changed. But the last year or so, you heard the parents testify, not me speaking, you heard parents testify that they haven't changed, that they're scared. And I just want to know what we're gonna do.
We heard one parent say that, and I texted my daughter while he was here and asked if she was afraid. She's in school, just like that girl is. If she was afraid of going to the bathroom, and she said no. And then she asked the guy that she was with, and he said no.
Well, some kids are more timid than other kids are.
Well,
My daughter is not a fighter.
well,
Nobody said fighters.
Well, I mean, timid was timid.
Are y'all
Were they
saying those
scared of something real or something imagined?
did those parents speak to them?
I just know what I heard, and I know what I asked, because I've got kids in school. Do you have kids in school? Do you?
I do.
I got grandkids.
Yeah. What are they saying? What are your kids saying?
I'm just telling you right
I'm
now.
not talking to you, I'm talking to him.
Okay.
I'm in intermediate school.
So, what are they seeing in the bathrooms?
They're not, he hasn't seen
Are they
anything.
scared?
My son's not in high school, those girls were in high school.
Are your
So
kids
it's
scared to go in the
different
bathroom?
campuses.
He's talking about smaller campuses and younger campuses. Are your children
No,
scared?
we're
to
talking
go
about the
back?
high school campus.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, and I'm talking, I address the high school campus. I'm not saying that there's not vaping in those schools, but I don't know why they would go to the bathroom where they're not scared. That's what I don't
So
know.
the question was.
Can I comment on that?
Sure.
You asked, I had breakfast with 7 teenage girls in the morning, and every one of them said there were certain bathrooms they didn't go in.
And so.
For that reason right there. Now, I know those 7 girls, there's some of them they felt safe in, but there's some of them they don't feel safe in.
I can tell you why some of them are scared. Because they're scared to get caught by guilty of association. If there's somebody in the stall next to them smoking that vape, and the resource officer walks in, who's to say that resource officer doesn't think that they're passing it underneath to each other? It's guilty by association.
How does that work?
And that
Officer
person,
Cool?
and that person could be completely innocent, but they could be, if they're sitting next to them, or if they're with them, they could be falsely accused.
Officer McCool, how does that happen? How does that work?
Is that not possible?
Normally, I'm not the one in the bathroom, because I have a canine, it's a school official that goes in, so.
So,
that's why.
the question was, where are we at the next year, and, we were checking more regularly before. Our administrators have said that they're gonna, the way I understand it, gonna step up, have more checks in the bathrooms. You know, if that doesn't work, then we can look at it. But right now, we understand, 2 years ago, it didn't obviously work better when we were in the bathrooms anymore. So we will make sure there's a better effort to police the bathrooms. If that doesn't work, then help and administration team can come back and do another
I
plan.
have a question. And I'll ask Ms. Wilson, have there been any students that have been accused of having drugs in the bathroom that, not being associated, that you know of?
So if we have a group of students in the restroom and, it is believed that there is a vape, then we take those students to the office and we conduct a search. And then if we have to contact and there is a citation ordered, it would be for possession. So we can't, pass judgment on or, discipline something that we aren't seeing.
So it'd have to be in their pocket or on their body.
And then only citation for possession.
For possession.
But I will say, there is, some kids do fear that, because I think it's Carla.
I mean, I'm here, my nephew.
Well, I know, and, you know, Carla's nephew, Carla spoke about it, and she told me, she said, my son was, you know, he didn't, I mean, he's a good kid, he doesn't want to be accused or anything, now.
He doesn't want anybody to look at him wrong.
Right, but, I mean, if he got pulled to the office, that he would be mortified, even though he would not be in trouble once, after they talked to him, but I do understand that, so.
Well, but they're still gonna look at him like, bad, cause he's getting taken to the office for the rest of them. That's,
Well, I think we need to shift part of our focus, and I'm not arguing with the program side, but we are putting a lot of focus on the kids that do wrong. We're going to figure out a way to help the kids that don't do wrong. We gotta start emphasizing more what we can do for the kids that come to school for the right reasons, instead of concentrating so much energy on those that come for the wrong reasons. You know, and also, we're looking at numbers, we're bragging on these numbers, we gotta realize we got a problem at the intermediate school then, that's on the rise, it's not on the downturn. So, I mean, I'm just asking since I don't have anybody there yet, but I will in 3 years, or that campus, I got other campuses. You know, we would like to know what steps are gonna be taken exactly to help with that problem. And then if we're gonna have, are we gonna have bathroom monitors next year, or is it gonna be business as usual at the high school?
I mean, I don't know what you mean by bathroom monitor. Again, I go back to, there are things that we've already put in place to try to cut down on those issues. And so I think our principals do a good job of identifying problems on the campus and then coming up with plans to address those problems. So if we're having bathroom problems on the campus, then I believe our principals would put in every effort that they can to increase monitoring if that's what it takes, or, you know, come up with other systems. I know at the high school there's a whole different hallway system that has drastically cut down on groups of kids in the bathroom. So just things like that. I just trust our principals to be able to come up with to address problems that they have on our campuses.
So you're saying we should be able to see next year bathroom problems going down?
I would hope so.
Even though we let them get out of hand this year, we're gonna make sure they go down next year.
I would hope that everything in our district continues to get better year after year.
Well, we're showing the two numbers coming down, but, you know, we heard parents testify, not me, that that's their kids, we hear it again, you know, so we got a problem there, we need to look at it, you know. I'm saying, we're putting a lot of energy on these kids, we got 3 or 4 programs for them, we need to protect the kids, focus on doing more for them, be it bathroom monitors or whatever we gotta do. I mean, Jeff said, Seth, it's toward his heart here that wanna speak, I've never heard her wanna speak to me before, I'm not saying she doesn't, but she felt compelled to speak about her daughter. People speaking out. So, I mean, we got a problem, and we'd like to, maybe the couple before school starts, y'all can give us an idea of what, some specifics, not we're gonna do something. I'm gonna lose weight, look at me, okay? I bought every book in the town, it don't make no difference. We wanna see some action.
I can tell you from my perspective, we've got a huge problem, and it's called homeschool, and it's way bigger than this. And you know, you look at this, we're having kids go homeschool. As our community's growing, the district is shrinking. I don't know if everybody realizes that. And it's a financial impact. These kids are losing out on education. Our school just increased from a 2.0 to a 3.0. We've got great teachers, we've got a great program, and these kids are not going to college, they're not going to trade schools, and it's life impacting. And, well, hang on, let me finish. That's a big problem. This is, we've got multiple bathrooms. These kids can go to other bathrooms. The numbers are getting better. Going from 145 and 21-22 to 62, that's a huge improvement. I think that's a great job. I think we've got bigger things to stress about. I mean, I think we can put in some bathroom monitors, but we don't have a horrible problem here.
So you don't think the bathroom is an issue?
I don't think it's a horrible problem. And hey, vaping is something that I see it every day. We all do.
So and it's against the rules. It's gonna continue to be against the rules in Sheridan schools. We have a policy for it. We have made some revisions to the policy, as far as adding stuff to, if it's on the bus, to get off the bus. We'll look at on our individual campuses, trying to make sure that these incidents go down. What this maybe does on our campus with bathroom monitors may be different than that. But the overall goal is, we would love for these numbers to be zero. We certainly want to be going down. So we'll do that. That's the reason we have data. You can look at it, and then if that data's not, you're not getting the results from that data, you find a different way. And so right now, policies, they're already looking at because there was a little bit of gap. I mean, 10 years ago, you would have never thought about a vape issue and all that stuff at an intermediate school level. I mean, that just wasn't. And so now we have that. There is a gap in our discipline policy because we didn't think we'd have we thought it was all 6 through 12 for that. And so we didn't have a specific policy or program written for an intermediate level. So now that's what we're saying. So we're going back and we're looking at different programs so we can implement something specifically for those grade levels. So that would also be a change. And, we want this to get better. We want it to get to zero. We're gonna need help from.
I think Chad was gonna say something. Okay, Chad.
Yes, sir.
What were you gonna say? I'm sorry.
I tell you why, the reason that we're having an uprise in homeschooling is because of all the trash over the last 4 years that has been brought into these school districts. The absolute trash, the policies that have been brought in, and it's not just here, it's everywhere. It's happened all over the country, and people are tired of their kids being taught trash and crap morals. There's no other way to put it. These leftist morals are not the way that real parents want their children raised. That's just the bottom line. And that's why real good parents are taking their kids out of actually decent schools because of these trash policies. That's just the bottom line. I mean, it's sad, but and it's infiltrating here. Sad.
I got a question on policy. Go ahead.
I thought. So one last question for you.
I got one more, and I've asked it. So, if a student is caught with a vape, THC, drugs, or whatever, so they go into second chance, right? If they have a fire, they go
They were just using it. They were called.
I'm saying just using it.
Yeah, yes.
Now, are they still allowed bus privileges, go back and forth to school?
So that's what we changed tonight in handbook policy.
So they won't be allowed to ride the bus?
We put in a policy where we can't take them off the bus.
Because I didn't bring several police reports, the vaping actually took force on the bus, and.
Right.
And so I.
And so we did, when we looked at that, we did realize a lot of these incidents were occurring on the bus. So we put a line in the policy where Mr. Emerson, when he does bus discipline, can look at that and we can take kids off the bus, whether it's either, tobacco products too, because I don't want somebody spitting spill all over the back of that bus and somebody else have to clean it up. But that's gonna be a different suspension from the bus than if you got a THC vape, or how do you just using one of those vape. So we did add that to give that leeway for him to take those kids off the bus and keep them out.
And I asked this before, I didn't ask again. So now, in the second chance program, are you still allowed to go to other events? Like you participate in extracurricular or the trade schools or whatever going on, the second chance?
If you're in second chance, I believe so.
So really, the first time, you don't get a hard punishment. If you get to participate, do everything, so you just go into another classroom.
No, you have all of the, you have the required drug education course, the drug screening, the progress monitoring, the counseling, all of that is in both of those programs.
But you don't lose any privileges.
Yeah.
Well, you're not in your normal class, right? You're not in your normal schedule. You're on your campus, but not your normal schedule, right? So
And the coaches have the option.
I'm not talking about the coach, I'm talking about the vocational program, and other programs. So they're allowed to continue on even though they got a couple of drugs.
Ms. Wilson, can you speak to that about if a student is in a second chance program, what extracurriculars they can or can't participate in?
It depends on what they're in second chance for.
Sure. We're talking about THC or marijuana. First offense.
Mr. Wolf, can you tell me what page number that's on? First offense for drugs is 10 days out.
Well, but we've already decided most people go, the parents don't get involved, something, they go to THC, they go to second chance most of the time, don't they?
Second chance is not a place, second chance is a program, it's a support program that we put in place, and so.
But suspension's off campus.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm quite confused. So, I walk into school Monday, and I've got a marijuana joint. So what happens to me next?
You are suspended 10 days out of school.
So
You
Have you met with Officer McCool?
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, but from the school side of things, if you have a marijuana joint, you are suspended from school for 10 days, with the recommendation of expulsion.
So I don't go to second chance.
You have an option of, in lieu of expulsion, you still serve the 10 days out of school. But in lieu of expulsion, then you could be enrolled into the second chance program.
So the student, but
Correct.
does the student leave the school for 10 days, then go to second chance?
Yes.
Okay, that's where I was confused. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's on me. I was confused.
It's on page 115 in the handbook.
And then they're, in essence, just on probation, like strict probation with counseling, with programs. For like a semester or more, on the hopes that that's over. And if it's not, maybe you're dealing with addiction, that's gonna show up in a random drug screen, which is gonna get you even more assistance. But there's as big of a punishment as administrators can give them on the very first thing, police officers at the exact same time, and then the support comes on 10 days later when they come back, or 14 days later when they come
But
back.
they can't go to both that period in the same day.
No, because they're out of school, and that school is just a representation of us. When they come back, they're back to school, and they're back in their things, they're just in essence on probation. And that's the language
But
in
they're
the
off the
policy.
campus for 10 days, though?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
2 weeks,
So
they're out.
regardless, they go off the campus 10 days.
Yes,
That's
sir.
where I was confused last month on how things transpire.
There's a fine, there's maybe a court, there's
I
10
know about
days
that.
from us. There's several significant things that trigger immediately, and that happen every time.
And the other thing is, what's sad is you would hope, and it's just a kid making a dumb mistake or something dumb, and you hope you get them in one of these programs and get them away from that. The sad part is, we see some kids that fall into addiction, whether it's just nicotine or if it gets to the THC. And when it gets to that point, you have that, once you get that failed drug screen, then you're out, because we have to protect the other kids then. If they have that addictive behavior and they've got that vape or whatever on the bus or wherever, you don't want the other ones to have a chance to be around that as well. So that's the reason that failed drug screening, then after you've done that, you're out. I mean, it comes back for the recommendation for expulsion.
Thank y'all, I appreciate y'all giving us this time, I do. Good. I learned 2 things, I was highly confused on 2 issues. And we got them cleared up on that. And I think we gotta focus on some other issues. But I had misunderstood things from last month, that's on me. It's not that it wasn't explained, I didn't understand it.
Thank y'all. And like I say, and here's another thing I would like to encourage you, if it involves kids, it's important enough to talk about. But if you have something, and like if somebody sees and knows that there's something happening in a specific bathroom at the high school that you've heard your kid or your grandkid or whoever talk about, call the school, let us know, and, you know, we'll focus on those areas too, because it's gonna take everybody to make a difference on some of this stuff. So don't be scared to call in. I mean, all options, whoever it may be, we'll work on it. So appreciate all y'all. We got a few other action items here. We won't be too long, I don't believe.